For the third straight year, Bethesda had their own conference at E3, solidifying their spot as one of the biggest publishers out there. This time, they were short and sweet, but light on the surprises. Hey guys, JV here sharing my thoughts on Bethesdaland at E3 2017. As always, if you like what I do here and want to see more, be sure to subscribe. First, I'm going to run through everything that was shown, and keep in mind this was all within 40 to 45 minutes. It was by far the shortest conference this year. They started with VR versions of titles they'd already released, and first we got Doom VFR, which was very interesting because they had this new mechanic, which is something that you get when you have VR games and first-person shooters. It's kind of disorienting to have to walk around in those games, so with Doom, they chose a teleportation system, which is something we've seen in a few VR titles already. Doom was one of my favorite games of last year, in my top 5 actually, and so I'm looking forward to seeing how this game is going to distinguish itself, and it does seem like the movement system is what's totally different, and I'm interested to see if it succeeds, because I know Doom, from playing it, it was all about being super aggressive and always taking it to your enemies instead of running and hiding in cover. It's all about movement and momentum, unlike a lot of other first-person shooters, so I'm interested to see what Doom VFR brings to the table. We already knew it, but Fallout 4 is getting a VR version coming out in October, and this one looked very interesting as well. However, they didn't do the teleportation movement. That would have been really frustrating in an open world game like this, and so they opted for more traditional movement, at least from what we could see. You are just moving around like you would in the normal game. As with any VR footage, it looked really jank, and again, that's because it's awkward to have to record that, and you're moving around the gun with your controller, the Rift controllers or the Vive controllers. But what I thought was really cool was the creation system, and that was not one of my favorite parts of Fallout 4. I did not care about creating a settlement. However, looking at how it's going to function within VR, it may make me more interested in that. I'm also wondering if they plan to include all of the DLC in one asking price for Fallout 4 VR, and so this is something I'm going to keep my eyes on. I've got a VR ready PC, but I don't have an actual VR device anymore. I sold it, so I'll have to get another one if I want to play it, and it remains to be seen whether it's worth it for a game that came out in 2015 that just has VR functionality now. However, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, an open world that is functional within VR, this is incredible, and so perhaps it is going to be an experience that will blow us away. Skyrim VR was also there and along the same lines as Fallout 4 VR, but it wasn't shown at this conference. I'm not sure why on that, but apparently it's coming out later this year as well. They had an extended look at the Elder Scrolls Morrowind expansion, which came out right around E3. I'm not sure if it was a little bit before or right on or just after, but as I've explained before, Elder Scrolls Online is a game, an MMO, that didn't really sit well with me. It's not that I hate it or anything, it's just that I couldn't get into it. I'm someone who played a lot of World of Warcraft back in the day before I started on YouTube, and I compare everything to WoW, and it just didn't seem like there was enough depth with Elder Scrolls Online to draw me in. And also, I didn't really play Morrowind, so the nostalgia is not there for me either. I'm sure this is exciting for a lot of people, but this was just kind of empty space for me personally. I will say Bethesda does incredible with their CG trailers. I mean, the Warden looks really cool as a character, but when they actually cut to the ESO gameplay, that's kind of where I lost interest. I'm thinking about giving it a chance, maybe over the summer if I'm bored enough, but that's really how I felt about Morrowind. Bethesda unveiled their Creation Club for Fallout 4 and Skyrim, and in our little Bethesda community, this has been talked about nonstop. I haven't covered it yet, but I tend to agree with my fellow Fallout Bethesda YouTubers, Mr. Maddie and Lone Vault Wanderer. I think a lot of people jumped down Bethesda's throat a little too fast thinking this was paid mods, whereas it's more of a paid extra content model. It's not taking existing mods and monetizing them, it's creating new content that is actually curated, developed both internally and externally, and constantly made sure that it works. This is not the kind of treatment that you'd get off of the free mods that are integrated within these games already. This is a way for Bethesda to keep these massively successful games still relevant in 2017 and into the future. If we want to get into the fine details, there's probably a whole other video worth discussing, what Creation Club is, what kind of precedent it sets for DLC and things like that moving forward, but I'm just going to leave it at that for this video. Next was a trailer for the Elder Scrolls Legends expansion, Heroes of Skyrim, and again, really awesome looking trailer. I think some people that aren't necessarily interested in Legends, which is a card game similar to Hearthstone, were a little disappointed to see that it was for Legends. However, having played Legends, I think it's a fine game. I think it's a great competitor for Hearthstone. I'm just not someone who's willing to spend hours upon hours learning the strategy of this kind of game so that I can win against other live opponents. Nonetheless, I think it's a really cool expansion for this game, and I think we're going to see plenty of expansions probably every year at Bethesda's E3 press conferences if they keep doing them for this game. It makes sense. Next, we saw Skyrim on Switch, and the only interesting thing for me was seeing the Link amiibo being put on the Switch, and voila, you had a chest in Skyrim that gave you Link's Master Sword, his armor, his shield, among other things. This was a really cool wow moment in the Bethesdaland press conference, but if you're not an owner of a Switch, that was pretty much where it stopped. Arcane Studios had something else to share, and it really surprised me. I was confused by what it was, but it is a standalone Dishonored game called Death of the Outsider. It follows Billy Lurk, a character who appeared in disguise in Dishonored 2. You didn't know who she was until the very end, and also an old version of an old character who is, again, very important in the Dishonored story, Dowd. To me, this was a very pleasant surprise. I am always just infatuated with Arcane Studios' creativity, their world, their art aesthetic, everything that has to do with Dishonored games, I am constantly impressed by. I can't wait to return to Karnaca this fall. Again, we just got a Dishonored game, and so getting this little kind of half game here is really exciting for me. We got another little peek at Quake Champions, this time a new playable character, the main title character for Wolfenstein, BJ. And so he dual wields, that's kind of his special ability. And I watched a lot of Quake Champions actually at E3. They had a whole esports setup, so I got to see a lot of gameplay from him. And again, Quake Champions is just at another level of skill that takes so many hours of practice that I'm not even gonna touch the game. It looks really cool, it's awesome to watch, especially in an esports setup, but again, not going to touch it. There was a lengthy story cinematic trailer for The Evil Within 2, and it was genuinely creepy, unsettling, disturbing, whatever words you want to use to describe it. I'm someone who tried the first game and couldn't get into it. I actually recorded a few videos for my channel. They're fairly old, so if you want to dig through my old content, you can find it, but it was genuinely scary for me the first time around, but I wasn't truly compelled by the gameplay, and so I hope this time around it's something that draws me in more and keeps me playing. I definitely intend to try it when it comes out this fall. Finally, the longest look we had was at a story trailer for Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, and this is Game of the Year material for me. I know there's already been a lot of good games out this year, particularly in the first part of the year, that blew people away, but this game looks so good. The first Wolfenstein, well, not the first one, you know, the first of the reboot by Machine Games was such a breath of fresh air in the same way that Doom was. Very tight, mechanically pleasing first-person shooting with super visceral combat and an out-of-this-world crazy story in, you know, an IP where that can work, right? Because we're talking about modern Nazis that won World War II. As Pete Hines said, Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus looks fucking bananas. Absolutely. 100% nailed it on that, and this is something that I'm so looking forward to playing later this year. So that was my take on everything that was shown, but I want to share kind of the way I see this entire conference, because a lot of people were disappointed and very vocal about it on social media. The only thing this conference lacked for me was surprises. There was nothing that truly blew us away because we didn't already know about it at this conference, and every other conference had something along those lines except for maybe EA, which was just horrible this year, just horrible. And unfortunately for Bethesda, this very well could be because both Wolfenstein and the Evil Within sequels were leaked within 24 hours of their conference. As we know, information like that spreads like wildfire. Everyone knew by then that we would see the Evil Within 2 and Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, and so we didn't get those surprises. We just didn't get those big surprises, those wow moments like Fallout 4 at E3 2015. That was just incredible. People love these wow moments at conferences, and Bethesdaland did not deliver on that. This also proved to me that hype is one of those things people like to pretend that they are not influenced by and that they don't care about. out. And even if games aren't coming until 2019, people want to see what's coming in the future. Hype is a big deal. We can't pretend that it doesn't exist. I think Bethesdaland needed one little trailer, even if it was a minute long, to spark that hype train to get people excited. Again, I'm not on that boat, but for the general majority of people who are saying I didn't like this conference, I think that's what it needed to push them in their favor. Personally, I'm still under the E3 2015 trance with Fallout 4. We all know how big of a hit Fallout 4 was. Me personally, obviously, with my channel. It sold so well that Bethesda is still investing in it with Creation Club and VR. The game was huge, and part of that has to do with holding it until 4 to 5 months before the game came out, and it seems like the rest of the industry took note of this with their conferences. For games that aren't coming out this year, either we saw a coming 2018 at the end of the trailer or nothing at all, no 2019. You know, not you're gonna see this game in 2 to 3 years. They held that stuff for the most part. Bethesda very deliberately stuck with that formula. Everything shown at Bethesdaland will be coming out this year in the next 5 months, and to me that is so refreshing. Pete Hines went up there and said that very specifically. Even though I haven't been a Bethesda channel for almost a year now, and I've been, you know, high on some things they've done, low on other things, this was awesome. I want them to keep doing this. It's easy to forget that we're getting 3 new games this year. I guess you could say 2.5 because Dishonored doesn't look like a full title. It's not $60, and so we're also getting a bunch of new pieces of content / new ways to play for existing games. We're talking about VR, we're talking about Switch, Skyrim, Creation Club. These are all different ways to monetize existing products. Hey, if Bethesda's game plan is to not show you games that aren't coming out this year, then they have to do something like this to fill the air, or else we would have had a 15-minute Bethesda press conference. Additionally, Wolfenstein, The Evil Within, and Dishonored represent some of Bethesda's most promising franchises. They're getting great reviews. Maybe not The Evil Within, hopefully the sequel turns that around, but they're getting new entries into these franchises. Call it what you want, maybe bad timing, but the expectations from Bethesdaland range from seeing Bethesda Game Studios' Starfield, a brand new IP that's been leaked and talked about very quietly in our community, and also another Fallout developed externally by another developer like Fallout New Vegas, which came out 2 years after Fallout 3. We got neither of those, and that is to me simply an expectations versus reality versus did you really think they would come out and reveal this if it wasn't coming out this year? It's very clear that Bethesda Game Studios is not going to show Starfield unless it's coming out this year, unless Bethesda changes their tune. It's worked for them the past 3 years, so I don't expect them to change. Bottom line, Bethesdaland lacks surprises, but it also omitted what all of the other conferences are still getting wrong. There was no bullshit, no unfunny skits from people that are truly unfunny. Literally no one in the crowd is clapping or laughing. That was so horrendous at EA. No hype fuelers, games that are not coming out anytime soon that were just there to get people talking. No over-the-shoulder garbage gameplay. Oh my god, Assassin's Creed Origins, what are you doing? No overly long monologues of, you know, people that aren't particularly interesting. No world exclusive premiere pre-rolls, no musical performances, no nonsense. Also, no fake esports commentated 30-minute gameplay demos like we have with Battlefront 2. Man, the game looks incredible, right? But that showcase right there, that's not what I want to see out of a conference. At this point, I think Bethesda's got it right, and I hope other publishers take note and follow suit in future years. Clearly, I was super opinionated on Bethesdaland, so I'd like to hear what was your take on Bethesdaland in the comments section below. Did you like it, like I did, short and sweet, you know, to the point, lacking surprises, but still overall what I want to see? Or was it just very disappointing to you because you didn't see new entries into your favorite franchises? Let me know what you thought in the comment section below. If you're still watching and you enjoy the video, click the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook so you don't miss another video. Sign up with Juniper to receive exclusive discounts on shirts, hoodies, and more at the JV merch store. Click the link in the description below for more details. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.